what made one mango seller more effective than another. It wasn't the product, it was the individual.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello. Today, I've got my friend Donald Kelly on the show. Donald, how are you, man?
Man, I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
It's
I'm really
great to
looking
have
forward to
you.
this.
Yeah, likewise. I was telling my audience in a previous episode that you and I met at Podcast Movement Conference, and I'm like, man, I think I saw your webinar, and I messaged you on LinkedIn. And then sure enough, I had dropped the ball. You asked me a question, and I just forgot to reply, and like a year had gone by. But boom, we got to reconnect at this after party thing, I think at one of the little bars or, restaurant things out there. And here we are today. You sent an email off to your assistant. I sent my booking link. This was like at 10 p.m. on a Thursday night. Next day, we had this call scheduled. So it's awesome to have you here, man. And where are you coming in live from? Where do you live again for the audience, just to kind of get a feel for your geography?
Yeah, I'm down in West Palm Beach, Florida. So
West
it's
Palm Beach. Nice.
somebody has to hold it down. So
You
I
got to
figured I
hold it
will.
down. Someone's got to live close to the beach because I'm over the mountains over here in Denver.
Well, it's
But
beautiful out there too, man. So
the world is a beautiful place. There's a lot of amazing things, a lot of really cool people, but it's great to connect with you. I'm glad we got to
for
cross
sure.
paths again in person so that we can have this conversation today. For everyone listening, Donald is the Sales Evangelist. I love that name. You didn't end up throwing Sales Ninja or anything. I know a lot of people like to use that. But tell us a little bit about yourself, man, like some background on your sales experience, how you ended up getting to where you are today and what you're up to these days.
Yeah, great question. So I did I was a software sales rep, did a different level of selling since college days. I did Dish Network over the phone. We did, I did timeshare presentations where we would sign people up to go to these timeshare meetings. Then we did, I did some, say, manage IT services as well. Did IT training classes. Was even a server at one point, and that was really good for my sales experience in a restaurant. And then from there, the final thing was like working in the healthcare space, and then eventually jumped into the software arena, and that was really, really great. Loved it. Had a good time with that. And then I started just sharing what I was learning as a sales rep. The challenge was a lot of the stuff I did before I got into in college was like business to consumer sales.
Okay.
And then when I got into the B2B side, I got kicked in the face. It felt like, and then from there, we just started to, the company I was with, they started to give us some training, and I started to see improvement, and my B2B skills just evolved, and I saw a hockey stick in my sales performance. So it was like I needed to tell more people about what's working, what has been working, because I started beating some of our veteran sellers and became one of the top performing sellers in the organization. And it wasn't because I was like anything special. It's just the simple fact that I love what I was doing, and I understood the fundamentals. And that's what we started to share on our podcast. I did, and then our team grew. So I always say we, because we speak a lot for our company, but those initial days was just me. And then I started doing coaching. From there, I started to get consulting opportunities, and then eventually created training programs. And then the team came on board over the years, started adding team members to where we are now. And we are a training organization. We focus on helping new sales professionals, entrepreneurs who have a hard time selling, who don't like it, scared of it, don't want to do it in some ways. Our team does some outsourced business development where we might do outreach for some of these clients and some of our consulting projects. And then we train. So we just train teams across the globe as well, and helping them improve their sales skills. And that's the fun piece about it. That's what I do as my day job. And we also run, as I mentioned, a podcast. And as a result of that, we started producing podcasts with our creative side of our business, TSC Studios. For ourselves, we own 3 shows, but then we started,
Wow.
some of our clients started to ask about it, and we started creating shows for them. So we produce right now 10, and by the end of the year, our goal is to get 15 companies that we produce shows for.
Very cool.
Those are companies. So anyways, but it's fun. So that's what I do.
That's awesome. So what was the timeline? I know you said you got into sales, you have a lot of sales
Mhm.
experience, you got kicked in the face with trying to do,
Yeah.
the corporate sales and stuff and transition from B to C to B to B. So what was the timeline on starting the podcast? I think I just added you on Facebook the other day and I saw you did for 10 years was the podcast. Is that kind of around the time you started
Yeah.
training people? Did it all start? like 10 years ago, more or less?
Yeah, the podcast, my first content in this arena started in 2012, really.
Okay.
I believe it was 2012. No, 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 no. Well, I'm really thinking about it
I'm gonna
now.
go back and check and make sure you know your
Fact
stuff, bro.
checking. But I started doing, I did a video, and had to create a simple little website. And then from there I stopped it, just was afraid, essentially.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then in the December, I started doing the podcast and the actual audio component, and that just it grew. We were coming home from watching Hunger Games, and that's when I saw that I got approved by Apple, and then it just naturally just kept growing, um, just little by little. A few people listening here and there, and then I got mentioned in a magazine article, and a couple more, and so by 2014, so that's like 2013, 2012, 2013 really. Then 2014 just started to just do the hustle and grind, sharing the podcast. And then 2015, um, we had an opportunity, me and my wife at this point, to discuss, should we do this full time or should we just still do it as a side gig? And she was working full time still, and we didn't have much debt. We paid off a lot of our debt and bills with a sales career. So I decided to jump ship, and I did. And we had a plan about a certain amount of money that we needed to have per month and make it consistent, and we did. And so anyways, it just all led to the glorious moment where we decided that TSE was going to be a real thing. So 2013 podcast started, play around with the idea 2012. And yeah, so that's the vision. That's where it was, and so that's the time
Very
frame
cool.
to give some scope.
Yeah, it's always just helpful to see because I think we all hear, the overnight success, or you see
Oh
like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, who
Oh yeah.
this person just blew up on the scene, and like what they this we do the comparison game. I'm like, this is BS. I've been doing my podcast for 5 years, and you just started 2 months ago, and you already hit
Yeah.
1 million downloads. Like
Like,
how?
I don't know about
But it's
that.
refreshing to hear these
Yeah.
real stories that I think, it's the 20-year overnight success for many
Hmm.
people. You've been at this for years and years, and you were successful in sales. And I mean, you still are, but now you're coaching other people on what worked for you and what you learned that help you beat the veterans in your previous organizations. So I
Yeah.
love what you're doing. And just like the name, the Sales Evangelist, like it's very clear what you do, what you're passionate about, what you're helping with. And I'm sure just the consistency over time has helped grow and spread your presence online and your message to more people who need to hear it.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree with that more. No matter what you do, whatever you're selling, like if you're selling a course, you're selling hardware, you're selling software, you're selling some kind of service where you're coaching or training someone. I feel like the notion here is there. I'm a fan of space, right? And I love anything dealing with like rockets or taking off, or just like the human beings going, pushing ourselves beyond our limitations. And one of those ideas that you look at with the rocket, the most fuel, a lot of its fuel, most of its fuel is expelled before it actually gets to gets to doing its full mission. Like it's just leaving the Earth's atmosphere,
Hmm.
and that's when magic starts happening, right? And I think for many of us, we want to take off, and we don't want to put the work in and to
Yep.
expel that energy, and to put the things needed to get to outer space, so to speak.
Right.
So that my encouragement is just you go through the challenges. And I know a lot of people are against the idea of the hustle mentality. I, I understand where the notion can come from, where like the hustle culture, but the word hustle doesn't need to be a bad word. There's certain times in your life where you need to hustle, and if you're doing a 9 to 5 and you're doing a side gig, yeah, you're going to have to hustle. You're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to work
Hmm.
some late nights. You're going to have to get up early in the morning. You're going to do that, whatever you want to call it. But I'm using the word hustle. And then you see it in the same vein when it comes towards like your services. Like you're going to have to do things that nobody else is going to want to do, because it's not their baby. Like for, my kid was up at 3 o'clock, 2:30 last night. It's my kid, right? So I'm going to take care of him. And my wife slept. She get a chance to sleep. I take care of him at nighttime. I want to make sure he's taken care of and fine. And the same idea with the business. Now it's going to come
Mhm.
a point, and it has come to a point where I don't have to do a lot of the stuff anymore. I don't have to hustle like I did at the very beginning. I can take a little bit more break when it comes towards the business, and I can have people who help coordinate stuff and make things taken care of. But that wouldn't have come if I didn't put the work in and working two jobs, the full-time day job as well as a side gig, essentially.
Yeah, I always love hearing that story of the hustle and just how you got to where you were. So I appreciate you
Yeah.
sharing that. In regards to sales and everything, I'm sure you're always sharpening the axe. You're constantly practicing what techniques are working. Before we hit record, I was kind of asking like, hey, I think the audience would really benefit from figuring out how to sell and serve and not be slimy, and like how do you be more of that go-giver without being too pushy. And so if we can dive into any of that, I'd really love to hear your thoughts on what's working today in 2022. And these are probably principles that stand the test of time, I'm sure, but I'm thinking like all the little gimmicks of like, let's hard sell them, let's bring in the manager, let's close them today. I don't think that really, like, I actually, you said timeshare earlier. It's funny, I kind of went to a timeshare presentation once and I was like, man, this is pretty intense. They're bringing in this extra person and they're asking me a million questions. And I've been here for an hour or something, trying to get this free plane ticket to Vegas where I was like broke. I'm like, dude, just give me the plane ticket. I don't need a timeshare. But what do you see that is working today that you can share with our audience? Just anything that you think is valuable, and
Yeah.
you don't have to go into all the details and the tactics that you do in your trainings because I know we have limited time.
Yeah. So one of the things I would share that's working, the strategies and ideas of the old school mentality doesn't work anymore because everybody have been through that. And one of the big things that most buyers, and for those who are listening to this, who are entrepreneur, who have a hard time selling, they know that the reason why they have that, because they know they don't want to be that pushy person. They've experienced that pushy salesperson who's just, super annoying, who's like, slimy in that sense, who's doing all kinds of tricks and gimmicks. Jeffrey Gitomer said it best. He said, people, and I think he borrowed it from like Zig or somebody. He said, people love to buy, but they hate to be sold, right? People love to
Yes.
buy, but they hate to be sold. So in that vein, can I help you to become a better buyer? And I think the biggest thing that people want to, like, if you go with the whole idea of feature benefits and feature, your little features and whatever, and try to push that onto prospects, we're faster, we're better, we have this widget, we can do this thing cooler. Everybody else is doing that, so that's not going to make sense to them. What
Mm,
works is a concept that we teach, and I may have shared this before with you, but it's called the blind side challenge, and
okay.
many people have different ideas on this. The concept behind a blind side challenge is that as a buyer, I don't know what I don't know. And if you as a seller can be that person to help me understand something that I don't know, I'm going to value that opinion. And then I'm going to see you as that person that helped me to solve that challenge, that more likely to solve that problem. So let me give you an example. Let's say it's water, something stupid, simple like that.
Mhm.
I have, drinking water is important. I think we all understand and we all agree and we all know that that's critical. However, if I come to you and say we have cold water and it's refreshing and it's cheaper than vitamin water, come buy water. Like, bro, no, I can get it from the tap. I have a free resource here unless I'm living in Flint. um, but if I then come to you and say, something to the nature of, I'm making this up right now, but if it's something to the nature of, I know you're as an entrepreneur, you're probably running around, you're busy, right? And you should drink water, and that's important to you, right? Yeah. You might say, well, 57% of people who are more productive, one of the reasons why is because they drink, whatever, like say, 7, 8 ounces of glasses of water throughout the day. The data is showing us, and it's not, and they limit their coffee intake by at least 2 cups per day, and they see that they're they're 30% or 50% better off than most of their competitors, and this is what the data is sharing with people. If I could show you how that's done, would you at least be open to hear more about that? I brought
Ask me
some,
a
I'm making this
question,
up,
yeah.
but it brought some insights to, things that are super common. Yeah, I drink water, but I didn't realize it. That's what the data is showing, that if I drink more water, I can outperform my competitors or outperform other people. Okay, I'm at least willing to hear you out on that and see what you're saying with this thing.
Mm, that's cool.
And then now that prompts me to say, like, it's intriguing, and it brings about the curiosity. And for anyone, and even if you're doing like e-commerce, like on your website, are you sparking curiosity? In
Right.
the emails you're sending, are you sparking curiosity? We want to spark curiosity, because if we could spark curiosity married to insight, we're sharing blindside challenges that the prospect don't even know is a challenge,
Right.
that's in their, not in their peer view, it's in their blind side, that you could come and point out. Because if they don't fix this, it could be detrimental towards them. In this case, if you're not fixing the water intake issue, you could be detrimental. It could be detrimental to your health, and also to your business, because your competitors, they're lean and better and healthier. So let's provide more water for you and for your team. Um, so, anyways, that's one strategy that we see that is this top of mind, that's working better than we can give you cheaper stuff.
I love that. I wrote that down. Spark curiosity married to insight. So you're educating. I always hear, make sure to educate people, show them the stats, let them know. Because that's one of those things you don't know, you don't know. I'm like, yeah, I know water is good for you. You're going to die if you don't have enough water, or whatever the stats are. You're in the desert, you can go X amount of days without food and X amount of days without water. We all need
Yeah.
it. But whenever you bring those little insights and you spark curiosity, I'm like, oh, I didn't really know that. And yeah, I want the edge on my competition. I want to be better than the other people who are trying to take clients away from me in my industry, right? So what do I need to do? Less coffee, more water, a special type of water, maybe room temperature versus cold. I think I remember hearing one of those little
Yeah.
things of like, hey, room temperature is better than cold because you can digest it better type thing. So
Yeah.
that invites people to take the next step and maybe be like, hey, let me click on that email, or let me opt into this funnel and see what's going on.
Yeah. And I think there's what that does for like anyone, it just makes me feel that you know what you're talking about, that you've actually done this before, that you understand some of the, the issues that others are going that that are experiencing. And because you're doing all of that, it just helps me to have more confidence in you and your company, to
Yes.
say, yes, your price is a little bit more, but I'm willing to get that. I'm willing to, what do you call it? Just, make that higher investment, and to take that, um, you know, offer that you're giving us. So, anyways,
Yeah,
that's
that's
my
really
2 cents on
helpful. So
it.
typically after you spark curiosity and you marry that to insight, you get them to click on something or opt in. What do you see as the best next step? Is it kind of more of a presentation mode of like, hey, here's how we can help you solve that problem and why you should use our product? Like, is there a great way to take that next step for people once you bring interested folks in?
Yeah. The piece that I've seen to be the most effective at that point is, now you don't want to lose them. It's kind of like getting um what do you call it? A fish on a hook. You got
Yeah,
them on a
yeah.
hook now. You don't want to just like, have them fall off. You want to keep them keep them hooked and going.
Mhm.
So you have a good meeting where you offer great great proof now towards that. So let's go back to this water analogy. Now I'm going to share with you some of the maybe some use cases, because you've probably been in those situations, and you're gonna I want you to get to validate those things. So share with you some use cases or the problems, and then after that, I'm going to take you down the journey of how we're going to solve that problem with that offering or solutions, and give you some examples of how some of our clients have done that already. And then invite you to make that purchase, or that step. It may be a tiered idea. So if I could show you how this is done, and just like how we've helped Maxine and her company to thrive, if we can do that same thing for you, would you be willing to invest in just like the our entry level tier, and try it? Now they're going to test it out and try it and see the results. And as they test it out, try it and see the results, then it leads to the natural byproduct where they might say, all right, this is great. Let's continue to add on more to it. And you can obviously upsell and go from there. You want to eliminate risk as much as possible. And that's one of the things I've seen that prevent people from closing well. If there's too much risk, or too much uncertainty, we're going to back out or we're going to lead to indecision. So when I meet with those prospects and I give them that insights, I grab their attention, got them on a hook, I pull them in with more, more use cases so they can see themselves in those situations, and then tell them like, this person did see this result. It may not happen to you like right away, but here's what I would say: test it, try it out, and try our initial offer. And some of you guys may have like those money back guarantee. Like for instance, our sales training program is $2,000, $2,000, 7 week for our sales foundation program. And I give a money back guarantee on it. Guess how many times I've had to give money back on that?
0.
Once. And
there's got to be one or something. But
and here's the crazy part. It was when I did this, I started off and I dropped it down to 97 cents when I was first doing it before I raised the price up to 2K. And it was like $97 the very, very beginning, like super $37, and then it got up to like 97 and then to $1.50, and over the years it just improved and grew. But I had it for really, really cheap, and say test it out for that 97 cents. And dude tried it, and then said he wanted a return, so we gave him his money back.
Gave him his
I was
dollar
like,
back.
all right, cool, that's cool. But when I started, even look at me when we're raising the prices now, and it got up to like 150, then we got it to 549, then up to 1,000, and now it's at $2,000 for the program and all the things that are invested in it. I've never had to give anyone their money back. But the idea though of there being an out and giving them, that they can try it, and if they test it and it doesn't work, then so be it. That allows for us to be able to see great results with it. And I just want to do one other thing too. I always, and you probably do this as a podcaster. People probably ask you, is this being recorded or is it live? I don't know if any of your guests ever ask you that. And I was writing this down yesterday because I was like, man, I need to do some numbers on that and some studies. I cannot tell you. I've done 1,600, close to 1,600 podcast episodes on my podcast, and maybe about 2/3 of those have been with guests. I probably have stopped maybe 5 times while I'm recording with the guests. But a lot of the times guests are asking me, is this live or can we stop and edit? And usually there's no need to do it. But in their mind, the idea that they can, if there is a need, if they mess up, makes them feel a little more comfortable, especially for people who are first-time interviewees. So the same idea when it comes towards your product and your service, whatever you're selling, give people an opportunity to have an out. They may not take it. I've been on hundreds of planes, and I love to see the fact that I know where the emergency exits are, but I never had to use an emergency exit on a plane. So makes me feel good.
That's a great comparison. And it's funny you mentioned that. Sometimes I mention it at the beginning of the show, sometimes I don't, where I'm always like, hey, super casual. I've got 3 pets, 2 cats and a dog. So there's going to be some noise happening, like a scratch in the door or a dog barking. And so I tell people all the time, like, yeah, we can pause it, knowing that out. I mean, I guess people like seeing the authenticity too. Sometimes my cat's tail is in the video. I'm just like, you know what? We're just going to leave it because like I'm a real human.
Leave that.
I'm not in a studio. This is real, But like you mentioned, the emergency exits too. I hope knock on wood, I never have to slide out of one of those little slides on the plane into the ocean or something.
I know, right?
But like, I have no idea how that works. But you feel more comfortable knowing that it's there.
Yeah.
That is very important. I'm sure you've checked out that book, $100 Million Offers. I keep hearing a lot of people from Alex Hormozi.
No, I haven't done the one.
I listened to the audiobook. That one's really solid. And it talks a lot about, I even heard someone mention it in their keynote at the Podcast Movement Conference. Like, she's like, I'm not getting paid to say this, but check that book out. It's very, solid on sales techniques and all of those things, but it talks about having risk reversal, a really solid guarantee. Alex talks about that on his podcast. There's a lot of stats that show, maybe one person takes you up on that, but how many more sales did you make from having that really solid guarantee? The sales you're going to make are going to outpace the returns you'll ever get, as long as your product or your service is actually good and kind of carries its weight, right? Because you're going to get feedback. If it sucks and you make 10 sales and get 10 returns, all right, I got some work to do, right?
Yeah. So fix that. And I love that. I guess that's going to be in the show notes, but I'm going to look it up as well. So
for sure.
It's amazing.
And I'm sure you've read a lot of books, on sales and being the sales evangelist and being in the game. I'm curious, are there any books that come to mind that have been some of your favorites in regards to selling and marketing? It doesn't even have to be, maybe just a business book too. I'm just curious to see what some of your top books are that you recommend.
One that I really like is 3 value conversations, and this goes back to this idea again of selling based on the insights, selling based on that blind side challenge. They call it unconsidered needs. Another one is insight-led selling. Really like that. Then another one that is really good for a lot of folks who are entrepreneurs and getting them pumped up is Jeb Blunt's fanatical prospecting.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't be a good salesperson if I didn't tell you about a book called Sell It Like a Mango, which is my book. And
Yeah.
it's about how so many of us sell the same exact product, but we need to differentiate. Growing up as a kid in Jamaica, you saw people selling the same exact mangoes, but it wasn't like mangoes from a different country, from all from the same place. But what made one mango seller more effective than another? It wasn't the product; it was the individual. And we break down what makes some of these great salespeople stand out, even if they're selling the same exact product. So,
Awesome. And yeah,
yeah,
way to be a
those are my
great
favorite.
salesperson. Like kind of just slide it in there very casually, passively. Where's the best place for people to check that out? Is there like your
Yeah,
website or Amazon, anywhere books are
go to
sold?
go to Amazon, get it. You can also check out the audiobook. Yours truly is the narrator for that. So I
Awesome.
read the book, so you can check that out on Audible as well.
For sure. I'll be sure to put that in the show notes and everything as well for the audience. Sell it like a mango. That's cool. I mean, we were just having this conversation on a business coaching call I was on yesterday. Someone was asking, well, I want to get a certification in this thing, but like so many people do it, anyone can get it. And I'm like, yo, I'm in real
Mhm.
estate. You just need a pulse to get your real estate license. But like, like that's pretty much the test is like, do you still have a pulse? Yes. Okay. Maybe how many square feet are in an acre? Like that's some random thing that they quiz you on too. But what makes one person effective versus the other, it really comes down to the person. So I love that you mentioned that. It's not the
Mm.
actual product necessarily. I mean, sometimes that helps if you have the best product, but there's competition. There's always competition.
Yeah. No matter what product or no matter what service that you sell, it is going to be, you're going to have people that are in the marketplace. You're going to have people who are going to uh, come against you. You're going to have people who are going to try to do something more nimble than you do. And it's important that you as the seller just understand that you sometimes one of my coach I've best heard him say like some you win some you lose some, um or something to that nature, like some will buy, some won't. Get up and move on.
Mhm.
And it's that true. There are 7 close to 8 billion people on this planet, and to think about the market share that you're going for, that group of people, I mean, how many people are in that market share? Like it's probably millions, right? Or hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, like you can't get bent out of shape if something doesn't work. Go and reach out to those people who are ready, who may be more open to it. And sometimes your personality is just not going to clash with other people. I mean, not going to jive with other people, and that's okay too. uh, but in the end, like, just keep on moving because there's others out there and you can differentiate as yourself. And that can help you to stand out over others, because even though there are other realtors, there are other entrepreneurs, there are other sales trainers, they're not there's only one Donald. And that makes it pretty unique in that sense.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of, so this was a random sales question that came up because I'm like, oh man, I'm all about attraction marketing, but I know maybe I need to be more on the offense sometimes, like sliding into DMs some more. Do you have any recommendations on what works best? Are you
Mm.
focusing more on going around on webinars and people DM you and then you have your templates and scripts on how to reply? Or do you ever kind of add people on LinkedIn and be like, hey, I noticed you do blah, blah, blah. Just wanted to see if I could help you with, that problem. Cause I see
Yeah.
everything. I see everything. I'm just curious to see what are you seeing that has the most success for you at this time, if you don't mind
So
sharing.
no, I do not mind at all. And we have utilized LinkedIn, and it's like say for instance, last week I booked 8 appointments from, and I think the lion's share of those came from LinkedIn. About 6 of them came
Wow.
from LinkedIn. The idea behind this is that I'm not like pushy and spamming people. In our training program for our LinkedIn course, we have a strategy that we call, it's a 3-step strategy: connect, share, and engage. And what I mean by this is connect with your ideal customers. That's a given, right? So connect with at least 10, 20 people in your send connection request to those ideal customers. Your market share on LinkedIn. 2, share relevant content with them. and like not necessarily in the inbox, but share relevant content
On
on
your
your
feed.
posts, yeah, your feed. So I might say if I go back to my water example, I might talk about like, make a poll, like, what percentage of people you think are dehydrated every single day, and that might be engaging for, what percentage of entrepreneur do you feel are dehydrated every day, and I might, say, oh man, they're out there hustling, doing their thing, and they'll interact with that poll with some of the options. Everyone who interact on that poll, I might say something to the nature of them. This is where the DM part comes in. Hey Tony, thanks so much for engaging on my post the other day. I appreciate that. Um, out of curiosity, where do you fall in place? Are you drinking enough water? And it might, lead to something like, oh man, yeah, I realize I'm not drinking enough, and maybe I sell water, right? So then I might say, what's your biggest challenge when it comes towards drinking, getting enough water? Just forget about it. Well, if you don't mind, I have a blog post I can drop you, or a podcast episode that can give you some ideas of what you can do. Take care of it. Yeah, try those. And then if you're open to it, I'm more than willing to jump on a 5 to 7 minute call if it's easier that way. And I can share with you some more ideas that some of our clients are doing, um, and helping them and their team to consume enough water. Would you be open to that?
Cool.
So then now that leads to the conversation. So if I had 50 people respond to my poll and I send this message out to, engage with them, I'm not spamming them. I'm conversing with them. And that's where the third step come in, engage with those people. Then naturally that might lead to those conversations. And let's say I get like, 20% of them to have a conversation. And then, from the 20%, half of those, set up appointments. That's better than a sharp stick in the eye making 1,000 cold call. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
there's people who are my ideal customer. They're engaging on my content, and then I'm having conversations with them. Connect, share, engage.
That's
Strategy.
awesome. I love that framework.
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned this when I kind of like didn't really name drop you, but I was like, yeah, I have a guy that I met and we sent some messages and I just dropped the ball because sometimes this happens to me. I'm sure people in the audience can relate. So I'm just curious. It sounds like I know LinkedIn's probably a great platform for you because there's a
Mhm.
lot of professionals on there, a lot of businesses, and your ideal avatar is probably most likely on LinkedIn and not dancing on TikTok or something. I would suppose, I would guess.
Yeah.
But how do you really stay on top of those things? Because where I drop the ball is like, okay, I do a couple of DMs and then I'm like, I'm not checking these for 3 weeks. And like,
Yeah.
I see they replied back and I'm like, oops, they asked me a question and hey, sorry for the super late reply. Right. So do
Yeah.
you have any recommendations on staying on top of that? Do you have someone on your team who's like actively responding to stuff for you, or is it always you so you can keep it in your voice? And of course, you don't have to share all the trade secrets. You're like, man, I
I
hope none of
do.
my
I
clients
do.
listen to this, but
They know the truth. Both. So I
okay,
do
cool.
have I used a one of my friends' company did exactly that, where I would create the messages and they would help me with some of my, not with all the stuff, but like with the connection. So whenever somebody connected with me on LinkedIn, I'll send them a message to say, hey, thanks so much for the connection. I appreciate it. Out of curiosity, what prompted you to connect? That message, anyone could share that, right?
Yeah.
But then once they start coming back and asking questions or talking, we have a tree of responses that they can use. So then we started using that internally. Just we stopped using the outside company because we had folks internally who can do that. And then for some of the other ones I do myself, so it's a mixture between me and the team. Right now majority of them is me because I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. And I also use voice messages, so they can't replicate that no matter how
Yeah.
people are doing that. So that helps me a lot to be able to go through a lot of them, or quicker. Just drop a simple voice message, and start the conversation there. But that helps. But you got to dedicate time to it. And the same thing with like, if you go back to the gram, right? You need to make sure they're following you because it makes it super easier that way. But just start having, what I like to do with this is the same concept where I connect, share, engage. So as I start share relevant content with my ideal customers, maybe to give some sales tips, people will jump into my stories and start interacting. And I love seeing them in views on the stories because then I start dropping messages to folks and say, hey man, I saw you interact on that. Or I saw you interacted with the stories there. You like that piece. Same thing with the poll. Out of curiosity, what are you doing right now when it comes to, what intrigued you the most when it comes to, that cold calling idea? Well, blah, 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 blah. Or just something even simpler. Out of curiosity, are you doing cold calls right now? Maybe my stories are about cold calling. Yeah. And what's the biggest challenge you're facing? this blah blah blah. Okay, here's a tip if you you can test it out. What I do when I do cold call and I drop a tip for them and say, hey, if it's easier for you, if it makes sense, would you be open to a 5 to 7 minute call? I don't say 10 minutes. 5 to 7 is the odd
That's like
number, right?
amazing because it's
Um,
so short. It sounds like, oh yeah, dude, five
I can
minutes.
do it 5 minutes.
Everyone's got 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 to 7, right? And if I can't explain to you a tip in 5 to 7, then I'm not. It doesn't make sense for me. I'm awful. I should be able to do that. So I give the tip and give the advice, and then naturally, when 7 minutes come or whatnot, they're like, "Hey, I say, hey, I want to respect your time." And it's like, "No, I guess still got a few more minutes," and they get a chance to talk,
Nice.
and go a little bit deeper. So anyways, those are those are some of the ways that we go about doing that. But the key part, go back to LinkedIn. Majority of people don't post on LinkedIn. 2% of LinkedIn users post of all
Wow.
the 850 million people regularly.
That's a crazy
Um,
stat.
it's nuts. So then I think it's, I forgot, close to like 9-10 billion impressions per month. So those 2% of people getting all of those impressions. Congratulations. So and then you go to places like Instagram. It increases where more people are posting stuff, but there's still a lot of side folks who are sitting on the sidelines who don't want to produce content or share content. And especially now that they're going the TikTok route where they're doing a lot more videos, even fewer people are posting relevant content.
Mhm.
So with that, can you get the lion's share of those people in your niche? You're not trying to get Kylie Jenner followers. You just need to get, if you got like even 5,000, 3,000 people who are following you, screw that, 1,000 individuals that are following you who are your ideal market and they're engaging with your stories and content. I mean, that's some of business right there, man. So
Yeah,
anyways,
100%. There's that blog post. I'm sure you've heard of it. I think it's called like 1,000 True Fans by
yeah,
Kevin
yeah,
Kelly or something. I've heard a few people reference that, and that's really all you need is 1,000 true diehard fans. You don't need 10 million followers or 100,000 followers. You can have an
no,
amazing life and business with 1,000 raving fans is the right word.
yeah. That's all you need. You just need people who are loyal to you, because what starts to happen at that point, they become evangelists for you. No pun intended with that. But
There's that
they
word.
start
Yeah.
they start evangelizing for your brand, and start telling other people and bringing folks to you and start sharing stuff. And then that 1,000 lead to 1,100, then 1,100 lead to 12, 13, then you're at 2K and so forth. So it's just that little by little trickle. And I think, go back to what we started at the beginning, you can't expect that you're going to get successful overnight. You put in your game. Like, I just see, you look at Serena, just like transitioning, not retiring, to next part of her journey, her career. And in that, she didn't become a tennis superstar overnight. You didn't see the years of going out in that crappy park with her and her dad and Serena, I mean Venus, playing, and didn't see when she lost matches and she struggled as a teen and as a young girl. And then you see when she's winning these Wimbledon and all these major things, and you're like, oh man, I want to do that, bro. Go put in 10 hours, go put in 2 days. She did
Yeah.
for
For
15
years.
years.
That's what people don't see. They just see
Yeah,
the end result. And that's why I was curious to start off with, like, okay, so you've been
that's why I
doing your
love them.
podcast for a long time. You said 1,500 episodes. You have like a ton of episodes already. You've been at this consistently chipping away day in, day out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a grind. And I tell people, the day I stop is when it gets boring. It hasn't got boring yet. And if anything, we're seeing more of an increase right now. And I don't think I've hit I haven't peaked yet. So we're still going towards that. There's greatness that we still want to accomplish. And
I love that.
so
Well,
anyways,
same here, man. I'm trying to be more like you. What
you can be better.
what before we wrap up here, I'm just curious, what are
Yeah.
the main activities that you're focused on these days? I know obviously the LinkedIn stuff, that's really good. Connect, share,
Mhm.
engage. Are you focusing on more speaking engagements, more podcast, appearances on other shows? Is there like a strategy you're following, or you're kind of just, because that's where I'm at, where I'm like, man, I'm doing a bunch of stuff. I don't know if it's the right stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have a method to the madness, or do you kind of just go with the flow sometimes?
There's some method to it to some degree. The goal right now is to get everywhere. And so, secret here for everybody. So I'm not I feel you can. I had a scoutmaster when I was in Boy Scouts with our church back in the days, and he said that you're gonna have good leaders, and he was also church leaders. Like, you're gonna have good leaders, you're gonna have bad leaders. What I want you to do is learn from both of them. I was like, what? And he's like, you've had both of them. You've had good and you've bad. Learn from both. Learn from what the good ones did, and then what the bad ones didn't do right. Learn from them. And I was like, oh,
Mm.
cool. And so what I mean by this now, you know, being all esoteric here, but what I mean by this is going now looking at the sales arena. So Grant Cardone, big shout out to Grant. I'm not a big Grant fan in his sales approach. I respect Grant's tenacious, I'll say his hustle.
There's another
In
pun.
that, and
10
there you go.
10x baby.
10x. And I like that book, the 10x idea, because it makes sense in so many different ways, right?
Yeah.
So what Grant did, though, when he wrote that book and several other books, it was back in 2008-ish, 2010, that recession. If you go back and listen to a story, he talks about when that time was happening, everybody was running to the hills and retreating, right? Or
Mm.
they were afraid. Nobody wanted to be out in the open. They're trying to figure out how things are going to go and how we're going to survive and so forth. But what Grant did, he went everywhere, and look what happened during that time period. He filled a void for all of those people who needed someone. So what I mean by this is that now you hear that R word looming. I like to say the tightening of the economy, not necessarily a
Mhm.
recession. And it's not a recession per se, at least not yet, but it's a tightening. And so many people are running back into retreating. How are we going to take care of ourselves? How are we going to take care of the company and our families? Yeah, we're doing that. We think about that stuff as well, but we're doing balls to the wall as well. And that's not a bad term if you go look at it in World War II with the planes. When they go full speed, that you push the throttles to the right, and it went to the wall. So the balls
Wow,
to the
I
wall.
just learned something new. I just always
Yeah.
assumed like that sounds painful, but like you're hardcore, you're all in, baby.
No, it's you're pretty much like just like the term pedal to the metal. That means you're
Full
going all
throttle.
in
Yeah.
fast, full throttle. So with that, right now, that's one of the things that I'm doing. So I go everywhere. If and we're trying to get on, I would love to be
Omnipresent.
on 5 shows per week, 3 to
Wow.
5 shows. If I can get on that, that means I'm getting in front of a lot more audience. More people are hearing about the Sales Evangelist, and more people are coming into our free course. More people go into our free course, become leads to my team. My team reach out to them, set the appointments, and they do. Then they get a demo, and then they get our $2,000 training course. Right.
Yeah.
So you kind of see how that happens. So if I can go everywhere and be out there as much as possible, I'm going to provide that value. And then also I'm doing more prospecting. So go back to the idea when mango sellers, if I'm out there at 5 o'clock in the morning getting ready my stand to set up and sell mangoes, I'm going to be ready for when that 7 o'clock bus comes, as opposed to you if you're getting to your stand at 7 a.m. And the bus is coming at 7 a.m. I'm already
You
set
missed
up,
it.
or I'm already prepped it. I'm already ready. I got my mangoes ready, and I got little baggies prepared for my buyers. So it's the same idea. You got to do more. You got to be unreasonable sometimes in order to get where you want to get to in life. You can't do what brought you here is not going to keep you here. You need to do a little bit more than that. So with this same idea during this time period, whatever brought your business to where it's at right now, you need to amp that up, and you need to be everywhere, and you need to make sure your market share know that you're there while your competitors are hiding and trying to figure out, put up defenses. We're going on offense.
I
So
love that. I love that. That's a great
yeah.
mindset and a great way to like end on an awesome, strong note of just taking more action and just going full speed ahead and just play into that looming recession word and just say like, hey, we're still showing up. We're not going to retreat. We're not putting up our defenses. We're actually going to do more. We're going to show
Yeah.
up on more places. You're going to see us everywhere. And then 10 years, 5-10 years from now, Donald Kelly's going to be up there like, 10X conference over here. Like, oh, the Sales Evangelist con. Like, let's go. I'll be a speaker up
It's
there.
called
Hopefully.
BizDev, actually. BizDev.
You
We
did
had
one. Okay.
last year is our first real
BizDev.
B2B event. It was in West Palm Beach, and it was
Sweet.
we had 150 registrants. This year, 2020, next year, 2023, our goal is to have 300 registrants
That's
to
a
this
really
event
solid
in
event.
West Palm Beach, and then we want to get to 5, and then to 1,000, and a few thousand, and that would be our goal. But to it's a BizDev, business development event, teaching sellers and entrepreneur how to take advantage of a business development opportunity, get deals top of the funnel.
Sweet. See, I love it. I'm like kind of making jokes here and there, and you're like, we're already actually doing that. I'm like, dang, okay. Speaking it into existence, already working on the plan. I love it. Well,
Yeah,
Donald, where's the best
thank
place
you.
for people to connect with you, to learn more, and to enter the top of the funnel and just check out the book and all those things?
Yeah, the go home. So go to the salesevangelist.com, and you could see at the bottom of the page there'll be a free course. You can go ahead and sign up for that and get access to that free course, or just go to salesevangelist.com/free course. Hop in, you'll get access to the 5-part video training. I mean, I'm being straight up with you. You're going to get 5 videos, and you're going to get some things that you can take and apply and utilize, and they're going to help. There are 5 videos of the 55 videos that we have in our training program for that. But I want you to get a chance. If you don't go further with us, but you just watch those 5, you should be able to see some success. You should be able to land some appointments, and you should be able to have better conversations, and improve your close rate. So congratulations, you're welcome on that, and you'll be a part of our funnel, and me or one of the team members will personally reach out to you, and if it makes sense to have a conversation and show you the full thing, and if not, then so be it. So now you have my full demo, funnel idea there. And then the other side to that too, if you don't want to touch base with that, you don't want to do that, you just want to connect with us and just see my content, just follow me on the gram, on TikTok, or in LinkedIn at Donald C. Kelly, all of those platforms.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Donald, once again. And I'm sure you follow Russell Brunson,
Thank you.
right? Funnel hacking for everyone listening. I mean, don't just try to steal his funnel, but like it's interesting to go through and see, like, wow, that course was very valuable. This is the email that I got. Here's the follow up. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Donald personally reached out to me. Like that's pretty cool too, right? So
Yeah.
I'm definitely interested in going through that and learning and taking notes and just seeing what's working for you, because you've been fine tuning this for 10 years. So obviously you've learned some things that you've applied, and you're going on and you're really just genuinely trying to help people too. So you're not going to be like, I know you said timeshare earlier. Everyone's like, oh my God, I'm going to get the presentation. But I could tell here, you're a great, genuine person. So everyone listening, make sure to go to the salesevangelist.com, sign up for that free course. I think people get scared when they're like, someone's going to reach out to me. Yeah, people are trying to help you. That's all. If you
Yeah.
need help with sales, Donald clearly knows what he's talking about. He shared it all today. He answered every question that I asked without hiding anything. So thank you, my friend. Really appreciate your time this morning.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you. And I want to give a big shout out to your audience too. If they haven't done so, like, running a podcast isn't an easy thing. And I would highly recommend and ask you all on behalf of Chris here, to just do this simple thing for me. Go ahead and leave a rating and review, but go one step further. Take the link to this episode and share it with like just one person that you know. Tell them to subscribe to Chris Show, because if they do, you could help that person probably, earn like another $5,000-$10,000 just because of the tips that we see from some of these guests. So anyways, thanks, Chris, for what you're doing, man. Appreciate it.
100%. Thank you for that. I really am bad at the call to action part, but I'm learning from you, right? Got to do that. Thanks so much, Donald. Really appreciate your time, my friend. And if I can ever help with anything, let me know. And maybe we'll talk when I go through the funnel and I set up a time to chat.
Deal.
All right.
Thanks for that.
Thank you, man.